All right, this is the copyright disclaimer. The copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
You understand how dysfunctional, how disruptive the white man, nobody on this planet has been able to live in peace with this fucking motherfucker. Cause it's not in their nature. It's in their nature just to try to conquer and lie and kill. And when everything is going good, it just gotta go bad. Everybody chilling. Hey, what are you doing? It just gotta go bad. Mm-hmm. You punk motherfucker.
Imagine walking down the street wearing a suit that represents your culture, your defiance, your identity. And suddenly, a mob of white military men and off duty cops, they jump out of taxis and beat you unconscious. They rip the clothes off your body. Sounds like a horror movie, right? This was the Zoot Suit riots of 1943. And if you don't know about them, buckle up. The Zoot Suit wasn't just a fashion statement, it was a movement. They didn't just come from out of nowhere. The Zoot Suit was born in black jazz clubs in Harlem in the 1930s, inspired by West African and Caribbean tailoring styles, the oversized jackets, the wide leg pants, the bold colors. It was about standing out and being seen. Black musicians rocked it first, and soon, Mexican American youth, the Pachucos, made it their own. It became a symbol of pride, rebellion, and identity, and that's exactly why white America hated it. See, in the 1940s, the US government was rationing fabric for war, and zoot suits used extra material. White folks saw black and brown kids wearing them and lost their damn minds. They called it unpatriotic. But let's be real, it wasn't about fabric. It was about race. What happened? A group of white Navy servicemen stationed in LA decided they had enough. They had enough of these disrespectful Mexican, black, and Filipino kids. Instead of focusing on the war overseas, they declared war on the streets of Los Angeles. They formed roaming white mobs that dragged young men out of buses, out of movie theaters, and straight up out of their own neighborhoods and beat them senseless, ripped their zoot suits off, and left them bloody and half naked in the street. And where was police? Standing right there, watching it happen. Actually, scratch that. They weren't just watching. They were arresting the victims. Mexican American teenagers, black and Filipino kids. They got locked up for getting jumped, while the white servicemen walked free. And if you think the government stepped in to stop the attacks, think again. Instead of punishing the mobs, LA made zoot suits illegal. Let me say that again. The victims' clothing got banned because to them, the problem wasn't that the white mobs were terrorizing the black and brown kids. It was that these kids dared to have a personality and pride. Next time somebody tries to tell you fashion isn't political, or that riots only happen when we don't respect law and order, remind them of 1943, when white mobs went hunting in the streets of LA, and the only thing the government outlawed was an outfit.
In 1943, Los Angeles turned into a battleground, not overseas, but right here in the streets. Thousands of young Mexican American men wore zoot suits, baggy pants, long coats, sharp hats, symbols of pride and identity. But to the newspapers, they were gangsters. When sailors came home from war, they blamed the zoot suiters for crime that didn't exist. One night, mobs of servicemen stormed East LA, ripping clothes off teens, beating them in the streets, and dragging them from movie theaters. Police arrested the victims, not the attackers. City leaders called the suits un-American. But those suits weren't about rebellion. They were about saying we belong here too. Every crease, every chain, every dance was an act of pride in a world that wanted them silent. They tried to strip away the style, but they couldn't take the soul. Would you have worn a zoot suit back then? Like and follow for more Mexican American stories.
This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 10, and it reads, For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rahakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Ayashar Barazal from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone, coming back at you with another lesson that is edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. And, all right, today's article is coming from EJI, which stands for Equality Justice Initiative. Okay. The topic is going to be white mobs attack Latino youth in Los Angeles. It's called the Zoot Riots. All right. But yeah, before we get into the article, just, the opening scripture. Yeah, that scripture, Obadiah 1 and 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. All right, as you know, this is the video that preceded the lesson gave accounts of this happening to both the northern and the southern kingdom. All right, just straight violence just because of a suit. Okay, a suit. Esau, the so-called white man, cannot stand Jake to be happy, even though this is wartime. And then they said that it was an affront to them, which is let me get that word, affront. I read the article. I'll get to that. It's a deliberate offense, so an insult. That was an insult to those white soldiers because they were wearing those Zoot suits. When you get into the article, because certain fabrics were being rationed, hey, there was no account of them stealing the material, so they bought it. So why'd you beat them up? All right, just because. All right. And that scripture is specifically talking about Esau, Edom, Obadiah 1 and 10. All right. Your violence has been horrendous to the nation of Israel, both the northern and the southern kingdom. All right. Today we're going to be dealing with the southern kingdom, even though this happened to both of them. All right. And to give an idea what the Zoot suit was, here's a photo of it. All right. This was made popular actually in Harlem in the 1930s. Look up Cab Calloway. All right, the big band jazz groups back in the 30s. Okay. Fast forward to the 80s. What was the group called? Kid Creole and the Coconuts. Famous song, I'm a Wonderful Thing, Baby. Kind of telling my age here, but hey, it is what it is. Kid Creole and the Coconuts. Morris Day kind of wore the same type of suit with the time early on in the 80s, but he didn't wear the hat with it. That's what's important. And you saw actually in the movie X with Spike Lee and Denzel Washington, before Denzel Washington became Malcolm X, went into Islam. He was hanging out in the suit. The guy, he broke a bottle over his head in the bar, if you remember that scene. But yeah, this is what they were upset about. All right. So yeah, the scripture goes on and says the shame is going to cover him. And Esau, it's videos and GMS, all day long around the clock about Esau being exposed and him being shamed for everything that he's done. You're the damn devil that the Bible speaks of on this earth. That's you, the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, the wicked, according to Malachi 1 and 4. You are the damn devil on the earth. I don't care how nice you are. Psalms 53 says there's not one good. There's not one good. And if they are, chances are they may go back to a Jake. We can't judge according to appearance. We've been scattered all over the earth, and it only takes, two generations to take away our original look. You can see that with today, what's the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs? Patrick Mahomes. You know, when he first started out, you really couldn't tell with him, and now he's getting older, he's getting those characteristics. Okay, his father married a so-called white woman, an Edomite. All right, and then now Patrick Mahomes also married an Edomite, and you can't tell with his son. All right, so we can't always we can't judge according to appearance, and GMS does not teach that. You know, we know we are the speckled bird. We know we were scattered as a people all over the earth, and we look like the other nations. Plenty of scriptures that prove that. That's why the book of Matthew 13 talks about the parables of the wheats and tares. It's going to take the angels to separate us because we're going to look just like the heathen nations. All right, and a lot of the heathen nations are going to look like us. So it's going to take the angels to separate us when the day of the Lord comes. All right, but yeah, it says that shame is going to cover them. And like I said, the videos around the clock exposing Esau. That's all. The majority of what I'm seeing right now. Esau is through. He's exposed. He's being made bare. Yeah, all of your terrible history is coming to light, thanks to your president and the whole Congress, for that matter. All right, the government. The leaders, the so-called leaders of this country. All right, yeah, that's that Book of Psalms 12 and 8. And it reads, "The wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted." And that's what we have right now. Everybody's on that damn list. Everybody. But yet they're held in high esteem. All right? And the people that are doing that shit, you're going to pay too, especially Jake. This is Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 13 and verse 1. And it reads, "He that toucheth pitch shall be defiled therewith, and he that hath fellowship with a proud man shall be like unto him." Yeah. Yeah, and if you know anything about pitch is tar. Okay, once you get it on you, it's very hard to come off. And if it does, it's going to take some skin with it. All right? So that's the thing. You associating yourself with this damn devil, the same matter he's going to be destroyed, so are you. All right? So yeah, back to that Obadiah 1 and 10 to finish that off. It says, "Thou shalt be cut off forever," and that's the end, Esau, and you all know it today. Everything that you've done, you know that your end is near. A lot of you all are starting to talk about who the real Israelites are, and no, you can't fucking cleave. That's talking about the Israelites that were scattered. Okay, you cannot cleave unto the house of Jacob. No how, no way. Salvation is only for the Israelites. All right? You're going to be destroyed. And that is right here in the same chapter, Obadiah 1 and 18. It says, "And the house of Jacob," that's the southern kingdom, "shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame." All right? It's the northern kingdom. "And the house of Esau," the so-called white man, "for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them. And there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai have spoken it." So yeah, this is Jacob and Joseph. That's the northern and southern kingdom coming back together, as is outlined in Ezekiel 37. Coming back to do the work of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. He's going to put that spirit on us. All right? And once we be in those new bodies and have the new covenant on our inward parts, time's up, Esau. You got 1,000 years, plus of constant ass whooping. All right? The only time you're going to get rest is on the Sabbath. You're going to be praying for that. Constant. And it's coming. All right? So, Yeah, that's what's going to happen according to scripture. Let's get to the article. Again, it's from EJI, Equality Justice Initiative. I'll put a link to this article in the description box of the video. It says on May 30th, 1943, in Los Angeles, California, white soldiers targeted Latino youth in a series of violent attacks that became known as the Zoot Riots. All right, and I showed you what a Zoot suit was. It says World War II fueled a 1943 population influx into Los Angeles that coincided with an increase in minor crime. So yeah, that's what they were doing, pretty much blaming it on the Latinos again. All right, when it's a lot of times it's them. It says white residents blame Latino youth who often wore distinctive, colorful garments known as zoot suits. They hate to see Jake stand out and have fun. All right, and more than likely, it's nothing new under the sun. These little Latinos were probably catching the eye and the favor of the Edomite or the so-called white women, and they got pissed off. All right. It says many members of the military stationed in Los Angeles were also hostile to wearers of zoot suits, which they viewed as an affront to wartime rationing policies. And again, they saw that as an offense and an insult. But wartime rationing policies, somebody had to be selling them this stuff. Okay? So do you blame the consumer or the one who's selling it? And in that case, if it was a so-called white man selling, not only was he making money, but the Israelites got their ass beat. Beat up. Some of those stories, some videos I didn't want to put in, just shows the brutality of it. But yeah, they were just something else, man. When it came to Jake, okay. It says on May 30th, a group of white soldiers got into a scuffle with some Latino youth, and that small conflict sparked a violent and widespread riot. All right. White sailors and soldiers spread throughout Los Angeles, attacking any Latino youth wearing zoot suits, beating them with belt buckles and ropes, and stripping them of their clothes. It says law enforcement did not intervene in support of the Latino victims and instead charged them with vagrancy, while Los Angeles newspapers encouraged the violence and portrayed Latino youth as deserving of brutal treatment. Man. Okay, man, I got a scripture for that. This is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 23, verse 15, and it reads, "The man that is accustomed to opprobrious words will never be reformed all the days of his life." And that word opprobrious goes into being shameful or disgraceful. Okay, and that's what Esau. These are constantly accusing when he's the damn devil, always projecting. You went around attacking people because of a suit that they paid their own money for. You thought it was an insult. I don't get into celebrities a whole lot. Matter of fact, not at all. But I will give, what's his name, D.L. Hughley. He said the most dangerous place for a black person to be, so-called black person, we know who he's talking about, is an imagination of a white person, so-called white person. And that's the truth. They see things and tell things that didn't even happen, just for the hell of it, just to see you get punished. All right? They going around lurking and waiting for these youth to beat them to a pulp just for something they were wearing. This is Psalms chapter 10. And verse 8. He says, "He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor, always spying, always watching to see what he can do to bring harm to Jake. All right. Verse 9. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in a den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth them into his net. So they going around looking. You know, it was one of the videos that they went into the theater, you know, looking for the Latinos. All right. Pulled them out of the theater and beat them up, you know, putting them in the hospital, beating them near death. Just damn ridiculous. All right. That's just what this devil is, man. And, you know, the world is tired of him. And they know that everybody's tired of him. You know, I'm seeing a lot of current videos now. Don't go up messing with Jake now. They're not having any mercy. And we know, you know, at some point, the Lord's going to put that spirit back on Jake. And you're going to walk up to one of them, you know, and do something, and it's going to be on. Just like you got the gay dude with the twisted mustache all on social media going around just calling so-called we're calling Jake the niggas. All right. And he's carrying a gun and hoping that they respond to him so he can shoot him. It's in Texas. Yeah. But see, somebody's going to be waiting for him. And he probably won't have a chance to draw first. All right. Right now, everybody's ignoring him and going about their way. But he's going to run into the wrong person. It's going to be over. All right. Let's get back to the article. I'll finish that last sentence. It says, law enforcement did not intervene in support of the Latino victims and instead charged them with vagrancy, while Los Angeles newspapers encouraged the violence and portrayed Latino youth as deserving of brutal treatment. And we know who owns those newspapers. You know, that media sets the narrative. And it hasn't been doing that forever. All right. Continue on. It says critical observers, including those in black press, rejected the crime control justifications for the attacks and linked Zoot violence to historical prejudice against people of color in the U.S. Zoot riots are race riots, declared in 1943 in a 1943 article in The Crisis, a magazine published by the NAACP. It says incidents similar to these riots later occurred in the cities around the U.S. as white members of the military and white employees of the military contractors targeted black and Latino youth with violence. By one estimate, 242 instances of racial violence occurred in 47 American cities in 1943, all because of a suit that they were wearing that they legally owned. All right. So they were attacking and brutally beating and shedding the blood of the northern and southern kingdom. Not because they did anything, just because they were wearing Zoot suits. All right. Yesterday's Zoot suit, you know, ironically became today's hoodie. All right. That's what they did. All right, to the northern and southern kingdom. But hey, they got to pay for that, you know, for the shedding of that blood. This is the book of Numbers 35 and 33. And it reads, so ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. Esau, the so-called white man, you shed a lot of our blood on this American soil. A lot of it. Which means yours is going to be shed. Okay? That's what it says here. That's the true reparations for you. You know, your bloodshed and ultimate extermination. That's what the scripture said. I just read that in Obadiah 1 and 18. There should be no more remaining of the house of Esau. And you know what's coming. Okay? And that's going to come at the hands of the 12 tribes of Israel in their glorified state. All right? That's how it's going to happen. I just showed you that in Obadiah 1 and 18. And here it again. It's going to match, the scripture is going to match up with Numbers 35 and 33. You know, that's how the blood is going to be cleansed by us. This is the book of Joel, chapter 3, again in verse 19. It says, Egypt shall be a desolation. Egypt meaning a house of bondage. Okay, that's where we are right now. The majority of the tribes are here, trapped in America, where the main judgment is going to take place. And Edom, okay, the nation and their lands, shall be a desolate wilderness. For the violence against the children of Judah, that's the southern kingdom, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. Uh-oh. You defiled the land, this land with our blood. It says in verse 20, but Judah shall dwell forever. That's the southern kingdom. And Jerusalem from generation to generation. What does that mean? Southern kingdom dwelling forever, and the northern kingdom dwelling from generation to generation? Yeah, that's after the salvation. When we have all those glorified bodies, immortality. All right? And you're in slavery. All right? Twice as long and twice as hard as we were. All right? Verse 21. It says, for I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed. See? He hasn't cleansed it yet. Why is that? You know, like the scriptures say, they are not in trouble as other men. And the wicked is reserved until the day of destruction. He shall be brought forth in the day of wrath. I believe that's Job 21 and 30. All right, let me grab that right quick just to make sure I didn't blow it up. I'll come back to that. Job 21 and 30. Con. It says that the wicked is reserved to the day of destruction, that they shall be brought forth to the day of wrath, which is very close, all right? Very close. Back to Joel 3, finish that up. Again, he says, for I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed. And that's because the day of destruction and wrath is not here yet. It says, but he said he will cleanse it by the hand of his people, Judah and Jerusalem, northern and southern kingdom, the entire 12 tribes of Israel. All right. It says, for Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai dwelleth in Zion. He is with us, especially, you know, when it comes to us having that immortality. All right. So with that, I hope this lesson was edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. Once again, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahushai B'Hashem, Rahak HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Arkim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like it to the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom, Kwam Yasharala, Abab Abal. Shalom, we got next.